Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Thursday night live stream for Week 4 of the 2025 fantasy football season. I can't help but smile, but look at some of the comments in this live stream chat. You guys are absolute comedians. Anyway, we just watched a very interesting game in which the Arizona Cardinals didn't want to play offense until about 6 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Finally decided to show up, and then once, in fact, they did everything they possibly could to make an incredible comeback, their kicker goes ahead and throws the game. What an incredible turn of events. Either way, we learned a lot of things over the course of today in regards to this game. First and foremost, Zach Charbonnet, the thumbnail of today's episode, is still alive and well. And he is obviously, at any moment, going to potentially ruin any of our Kenneth Walker shares. Kenneth Walker, he looks solid. But as soon as he runs down to the goal line, he's asking for a substitution because he looks like he's slow and tired. Jackson Smith and Jigba, for the entirety of the first half, for some reason, they thought he should be playing running back, and they utilized him as such with 3 rushing attempts. Not once this entire season had they got him utilized within the rushing category. But hey, you know what? Just expose him to that and not throw him the ball until when it really matters, when you could have been doing that the entire day. Classic. Outside of that, when we talk about Trey Benson, which I see many of you potentially panicking about his potential and what he produced this evening. 8 carries for 32 yards. What is that? Oh, no, it was actually 8 carries for 35 yards. So over 4 yards per carry, had 5 receptions on 5 targets for 19 receiving yards. In a full PPR, double-digit fantasy points. In a half PPR, it was nearly 8 fantasy points, something of that extent. The only reason he didn't see more work is because, quite frankly, the game script got away from them. Kyler Murray throwing 2 interceptions didn't really help them in the overall situation. So if we got into a position in which they were in a positive script, if not a neutral script, we would have seen more Trey Benson, and he looks solid today. It's not like any of the runs that he had, another running back like James Conner would have produced at a better position. Like a lot of the opportunities that were stuffed at the line of scrimmage were stuffed because nobody blocked anybody. The other opportunities in which he was able to make something out of nothing, he looked solid. Now, as to why Amari DeMercado got a lot of the tread in the late innings of the overall game, it's primarily because they preferred him as the pass blocking kind of running back. You guys saw how much they were blitzing there at the end. So we needed to go ahead and have the more experienced pass blocking running back in the mix, and that eventually led to a touchdown there. I'm not worried about Trey Benson. I think if anything, he's a buy low going forward. Either way, hope you guys are doing well. Let's talk about all things fantasy football. This Thursday night game was quite interesting. The tight end position, like for another consecutive week, finding success on a Thursday night. Not so much so in the favor of a Trey McBride. I thought he should have had a better game. But for some reason, AJ Barner wants to go ahead and make a surprise visit to many of our fantasy leagues in which he is 0% roster most likely. But either way, let's get into answering some of these questions. A quick reminder: if you guys are going to send in a question, whether that be in a live chat and or super chat iteration, make sure you include your scoring format. If you are going to send a super chat, please do me a favor and include it within the message so that I don't have to go looking for your question. That would be greatly appreciated. Outside of that, let's get into it, shall we? Let's go ahead and really quickly, I'm going to throw up the YouTube live chat right here. And let me go ahead and connect that real quick, and we should be good to go. Okay, Andrew Pacina sends in with the first question. Andrew, thank you very much. Says, do I trade Tedero McMillan for Quentin Johnston and Xavier Worthy? If you're in need of wide receiver depth, I would say yes. Quinshon Judkins, it's not Quentin Johnston. Quinshon Judkins, excuse me. I would take that. I mean, again, if you need running back depth, excuse me. So now that I actually read it correctly and I didn't completely botch that, I would take the Judkins side in the event in which you need the running back depth going forward. Because Xavier Worthy had a full participation in practice each of the last 2 days, is trending towards returning, and it obviously is going to be a huge part of that Kansas City offense. Considering how well Tyquan Thornton has played, I'd imagine that Xavier Worthy can, of course, immediately step in and ball out. So yeah, I don't mind that trade at all. Brian Keebler sends in a question. Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it. He says, in a half PPR pick 2 between Hill, Adams, and Genty. Appreciate the content. Yeah, as of right now, I don't even know if Adams is going to play this week. He's missed each of the last 2 days of practice with a hamstring injury. So there's a possibility in which he doesn't play at all this week. In the event in which that is the case, Hill and Genty immediately become your starters. And even if that's not the case, I'd be concerned enough with Adams with a hamstring injury and the possibility of a re-aggravation mid-game to where if we don't get a full participation in practice tomorrow, I'm probably just going to tell you to play Genty and Hill this week in a half PPR. Thank you. Marco says, I'm regretting starting Benson over Chase Brown. Yeah, again, there's always going to be game scripts and there's always going to be situations in which hindsight 2020, we'll have to wait and see whether or not Benson can be a more contributable factor in the future within this offense. I think he certainly will be. As for Chase Brown, I mean, I hope Chase Brown plays well this weekend. Trust me, as the manager, or as the as you would call it, the conductor of the Chase Brown hype train over here. Yeah, I would really much so appreciate it if Chase Brown was able to do anything fantasy wise, because my goodness, do I have a lot of shares of him this offseason. But yeah, we'll see. Hoping for the best for both of them, of course. But you know, that matchup against the Broncos ain't gonna be a cakewalk either. Mo Money sends in a question. Says trade Roma Dunze for Jacobs. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think that's a great trade, especially if you're in need of running back depth. Says, or JSN for Barkley. I'm okay with that as well. I think both of those are very much so trades that I'd be really happy getting in return. Says my running backs are A.K. Judkins, Travion Henderson, Harvey, Mixon, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yep. Yeah, considering the wide receiver depth you currently have in its current situation, I'd feel really comfortable making either of the two trades, whichever one you prefer in terms of who you want to get in return. I think they're both positive trades in order to help you with your running back depth going forward. In the event in which, again, Alvin Kamara could put up a great week, or Travion Henderson could put up a great week, not only can they be contributors, but they could also be potentially moved down. But you do play in a 2-flex format, so being able to keep them on roster and hope that they get relevant sooner rather than later is certainly going to be positive. So yeah, I don't mind that. Thank you. Adam Amar sends in a question. Thank you very much, Adam. Says, we worried about the Cardinals trading for a running back. Are the Cardinals going to trade for a running back? Look, the Cardinals would only ever trade for a running back in the event in which they were actual Super Bowl contenders. I don't know if a team of this caliber is going out and trading for RB in the event in which they're not actually even in a playoff threat. As of right now, I would assume there's enough money tied up in Connor's contract and what they currently have with this situation. If anything, if they're going to be trading for a player, they need to trade for an actual, like, another wide receiver not named Michael Wilson that can actually contribute. So in the event in which a trade would occur, that's probably where they go. Otherwise, they need cornerback help with Will Johnson out. No, I'm not worried about them making a trade. Thank you. Rando Commando sends in a question. Says, Chase Brown or Jordan Mason full PPR? It's got to be Jordan Mason. I don't understand why everyone's so excited about Chase Brown this week. They play against the Denver Broncos. It's going to be a worse matchup than this most recent game against the Minnesota Vikings. So if in fact we get into a situation in which they're in a negative game script, sure, we would hope that Chase Brown gets more looks. Likelihood is that he won't. Jordan Mason is cleared away the absolute play in this circumstance. Christian Taylor, I'm going to go ahead and write your name down. I'm going to check the live chat in just a moment. But until then, I'm just going to write your name down just so I don't forget that you sent in a question, and we're good to go. All right. Cheeks sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, choose one: Chase Brown, Io Manor, Golden, or Henderson. Of the group in a full PPR scoring format, I'm okay going Henderson there. Specifically says, please don't say, Chase Brown. If you do not want me to say Chase Brown, that's fine. Let's go with Henderson. Let's hear. Chan Dimitri says, thanks again, Andrew. No problem. Glad to help in any way, Chan. Sap Family sends in a question. Says, in a 12-team full PPR, would you trade away London or Garrett and Mike Evans for CD? London or Garrett and Mike Evans for CD? No, I don't think I would. You'd have to be 3-0, and you'd have to play you're playing a 12-team league. I don't see the value in trying to trade for CD Lamb unless I'm 3-0. And what you are having to give away in order to recoup his value, I think, is giving away too much considering the injury circumstance. Now, again, if you were 3-0, you're like, Andrew, this is a cakewalk league. I'm just going to get to the playoffs regardless. I'm just preparing for that situation. Then sure, we can go ahead and develop in that direction. But CD with your wide receiver 2 being Olave in a PPR is doable right now, considering Olave is catching 8 to 10 passes a game and being targeted more than any other wide receiver in the NFL on a per game basis. But as of this moment, I don't love the trade unless you're undefeated and you think you're immediately going to be walking into the playoffs without a doubt in your mind. Because then I think you're just giving away too much. At this point, I would just start London and Garrett Wilson every single week and just roll Olave in my flex. Tan Fam sends in a question. Says, in a PPR, Pollard, Pittman, BTJ, or Metcalf? Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Let me see where I have them ranked in my Patreon rankings as of this, this current update. Where do I have Tony Pollard in comparison to Pittman, BTJ, Metcalf? As of this current moment, Pollard, Pittman, BTJ, Metcalf. I have Pollard ahead of the bunch. I would consider playing Pittman as the number 2 option in this group in a full PPR. But as of right now, I'm probably leaning towards playing Tony Pollard out of the group against the Houston Texans. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Let me go to Christian Taylor's question, see if I can find it. And then I'll go ahead and get to your question, Chan. Thank you. All right, so let me write down Chan's name as well. All right, Christian Taylor says, hey, Andrew, I'm currently 0-3 to start the year. Of a dynasty, unfortunately started Benson tonight in a 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex league. I have Baker, Kyron, Brees, Keenan, Myers, London, Genty, and Benson. Part 1 of 2. All right, where's part 2 of 2, brother? Here we go. Part 2 of 2. It says bench DK, Olave, Pollard, JMO, Higgins, IRs, Ayuk, and Dell. You don't need Dell. Well, actually, it's a dynasty league, so that's a different question. Okay. What do I do from here? Anyone I should move / stash? And would you drop Baker for anyone above Caleb Williams in Dynasty? Interesting questions here. Okay, with the context that you currently have, with the current team, if I was in your position, am I dropping anybody for a second quarterback? Probably not, as it stands, because I'm just trying to, at this point, this week, I'd prefer to play Caleb Williams over Baker Mayfield. So you might want to just explore the possibility of making a 2-for-1 trade. Then after doing that, exploring the reality of going up and picking, Caleb Williams off of the waivers. So in your situation, what I would probably try to explore to accomplish is I want to try to go buy low on Drake London as soon as I possibly can. In the event in which you have to give away a Keenan Allen plus somebody else off of your bench, I go and I accomplish that this week. That's how we should go about it. Then after you make that 2-for-1 move, pick up a player like Caleb Williams off the the waivers, and then start him. Thank you. All right, we're looking for Chan Dimitri's question, who says, in a 10-team PPR, I'm 2-1. We have Caleb, Daniel Jones, Fields, Hampton, Kyron, Benson, Pollard, JCM, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Sutton, Malik, Tet, Igbuka. You have a really strong team. Pearsall and Njoku. Trade Pollard for Chase Brown. Yes, immediately. Without a doubt in my mind, 10 times out of 10, give me Chase Brown there. Should I trade Igbuka and Pearsall for Bowers and Worthy? That's a very intriguing trade. Considering you can afford to do it with Amon-Ra, Sutton, Malik, and Tetaroa and McMillan, I don't have an issue with going and getting Bowers in this circumstance, and then also bringing in Worthy. So yes, I would take that deal as well. Thank you, Chan. That improves your team greatly. And your team, in my mind, is already really solid, so it's only going to get better from there on. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue back with some of these super chat questions. I appreciate you guys being patient on the matter. We had a question that came in from Noah, who says, I'm currently 1-2, but trade sounds too good to pass. I have Jaden Daniels as my quarterback, trading Caleb Williams and Devontae Adams for Kittle and Kyron. Yeah, immediately. That's an easy trade. Make it. Congratulations, Noah. You have somehow duped somebody in your league to cough up Kittle, but most importantly, Kyron Williams. Congrats, Noah. Charles Grosso sends in a question. Says Kamara, Etienne, or Pittman in the flex. As of right now, I think it depends on format. Like if we're talking about a full PPR, I would like to hope that Alvin Kamara would be the most valuable threat within this overall circumstance. In the event in which we're playing half PPR, I probably lean towards playing Etienne. Do I want to play Michael Pittman Jr.? I do, but over the likes of an Etienne, I probably don't end up pulling that as of this week. So I'd go Etienne half PPR, Kamara probably full PPR. Let me see where I even have Kamara in my full PPR rankings comparatively. Yeah, I still have him ahead of Michael Pittman Jr. Thank you. All right, we continue on with a question from X Hassan, who says, in a full PPR, trade Adams and Rashee Rice for Jamar Chase. In the event in which, I would say yes. Just blindly, with no context as to what your team consists of, I would rather have Jamar Chase the rest of the season. Even with a downgraded quarterback, I would feel comfortable making the move. But you would only ever make the move of this caliber if you have enough wide receiver depth to sustain it. If by the time Rashee Rice was to come, let's say you make this trade and you're like, Andrew, well, I still don't have any wide receivers outside of Chase at this point. Like Adams was my best guy. Rashee's my next best guy. Then we're in a little bit of trouble and we might want to explore a different reality in which you're trading a 2-for-2 or a 2-for-3 to build depth. But if you already have depth and you're playing in this kind of deeper format to where you have a lot of depth on the bench, then yeah, let's make the trade. Drew Soul says, should I worry about Chase? Happy birthday. It depends on what Chase you're talking about. Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, Chase from the 7-Eleven. I don't know. As of right now, I would say it depends. I'm worried. I have a blanket worry over the Cincinnati Bengals. My blanket worry revolves around the idea of this offense potentially being able to actually put together sustainable drives against good defenses. And that is my primary concern, because when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Bengals, like, I don't think it's a cakewalk either. I mean, obviously you're playing in a relatively difficult division, to which the upcoming games are Denver, Detroit, Green Bay. Just that alone scares me because of the quarterback play of Jake Browning and the pass rush that'll come after him. Then we have Pittsburgh, the New York Jets, the Chicago Bears. Okay, a little bit of an easier approach, but still, Pittsburgh sends a lot of pressure at quarterbacks. Jets and Chicago you can live with. Then you get Pittsburgh again. Then you get New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, Arizona. Like, there's a lot of concern, but at the same time, we've seen Jake Browning play well. Just got to protect him. And the fact of the matter was they couldn't protect Burrow, and that's why we're in this situation right now. So not too much hope. Certainly, definitely some concerns here and there. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes. I appreciate that. Adam Amar sends in a follow-up. Says Quentin Johnston has a higher separation score than Malik Neighbors, a higher route win rate than Jackson Smith and Jigba. Have him in Dynasty. What is worth? Look, here's the thing. If he can sustain that for an entire season, I'll say, yeah, he's fantastic. Beautiful. Keep him. But in the event in which he's able to, potentially keep that, that's going to be tough. That is not going to be easy. This is the beauty of it as well. What you want to do with Quentin Johnston and these like separation scores and these route win rates, these are great. But does he score more fantasy points per game than a Jackson Smith and Neighbors? That's really just going to be the determining factor as to whether or not you keep him on roster. And the thing is, because his name value isn't as, it doesn't pack as much of a punch as Neighbors or Jackson Smith right now, I don't think you'd be able to trade him for either of these two. But if you could, please do yourself the favor. Now, in a dynasty, again, you're not going to be able to. So you just hold on to him and just hope for the best. And once he builds a kind of a more consistency and a better name, then at that point you can ship him off or just continue to benefit off of him playing incredibly well this far this season. Juan Vaca Ramirez sends in a question. Says trade. Okay. Says I traded Shakir for Kittle. Beautiful. No, that's a fantastic trade. Says I messed up. I have McBride. No. Traded Shakir for Kittle. So you got Kittle, but you have McBride. That's perfectly fine. You can play one in the flex, one at tight end, or you can ship one off and get more than that. Kittle is worth way more than Shakir. So you just basically stole Kittle. Thank you. Joshua Wilkins sends in a question. Says, Choo Choo, wondering if I should bail on Chase Brown. Yeah, as the conductor, I'm here to tell you. Let's see here. Says, tried offering him for Drake London since they're both underperforming. If you can get Drake London, I'd be fine with it, under the assumption you don't need a running back in exchange. Like if you have enough comparable running back kind of support on your bench and or within your starting lineup that can fill in for Chase Brown, I don't mind moving him off for Drake London for rest of season value. Thank you. Brian sends in a question. Says, happy birthday. My birthday was on the 24th. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Brian. Says, I need the flex in a full PPR. Waddle, DK, Kirk, Jennings, Pacheco. All right. So I'm not playing Christian Kirk. I'm not playing Juwan Jennings. He didn't practice. I think he didn't practice again today, which leads me to believe that Juwan Jennings probably misses again this week. If I had to guess, Juwan Jennings, yeah, Wednesday and Thursday missed. This is the Ricky Pearsall week again. Pacheco, we're never going to play again. So it's Waddle or DK Metcalf in a full PPR, to which I don't really like that Vikings matchup, and I almost feel like I should play Waddle, and that's what I'm going to suggest that you do in this circumstance. Thank you, Brian. John S. says either Pickens / Quentin Johnston plus Jordan Mason for Bucky Irving. Okay, so QJ is not Quentin Johnston, right? That's going to be Quinshon Judkins, correct? If that's Quinshon Judkins, I don't mind moving Judkins and Pickens in order to get Bucky. That works for me. Thank you. Jesse M. and Himmy, if you guys could, please do me a favor and type in your questions in the live chat and I can get to it. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and let's check this out. We had, where did it go? Here we go. We had this question who says, trade Chase Brown for Benson. I get Benson. Let's see what Chase Brown's capable of accomplishing this week before we ship him off. Thank you. Brian Nicholas says, do I trade Igbuka and Genty for Hampton and McMillan? I am 2-1. Igbuka and Genty for Hampton and McMillan. Honestly, I think in terms of rest of season value, I think this could be considered a comparable trade based on the lack of dependency that we get from the offensive line play of the Raiders, to which Genty and Hampton can both be very much so equivalent. As for McMillan and Igbuka, obviously Igbuka has been the more valuable prospect as of thus far, considering the touchdowns he has produced in weeks 1 and 2. But I think McMillan's are just around the corner. So I would say this is an equal trade. Whichever way you would like to go about it, you perfectly can. And I think it's an appropriate flat even trade. I don't think one team gets an advantage over the other unless Genty becomes a 25 point per game monster, which based on what we've seen thus far, I don't think he's going to jump into that caliber of running back anytime soon. Christian Taylor says 3 to 5 buy low targets. I acquired London already. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's put a blanket statement on a bunch of potential buy low targets that I like as of right now at multiple positions. Okay. So first and foremost, if you guys are in need of tight end help, George Kittle's obviously first and foremost the guy that I would go after if you could afford to wait for his return. In the event in which you could not wait for his return and you were looking for an alternative buy low at the tight end position, obviously you would try to go after Brock Bowers based on the fact that thus far this season, he's kind of been a non-factor comparatively to where he was this time last year. But nonetheless, still a very valuable target that you should be going after. I'd also be willing to potentially, even though it may be difficult, try to quote-unquote buy low on Tyler Warren now before the future of his touchdowns start to kind of tick into the score lines. If you were thinking even further down the line of tight end, again, at that point, I'm not willing to buy in on guys like Andrews or Kelsey or anything like that. I'm not really up for those kind of moves. I just purely rather have Kittle, Bowers, Warren. I don't want anybody else. Everybody else I could just deal with picking up off waivers. Then if we move on to the running back position, in terms of potential buy lows, I think Genty certainly is a buy low candidate that we should all be potentially looking at. Breece Hall is another buy low candidate. Travion Henderson is another buy low candidate. I think all of those options should be explored within your league, whether or not you are secure at running back, because if you could just add more depth before their breakout, it makes it so where you can utilize them as trade fodder. If not, throw them as your starter and then utilize the other players within your lineup as trade fodder in the future. Outside of those three, the conversation of Chase Brown could be thrown into the mix. But again, I'm not trying to overspend for these players. I'm trying to do exactly what I'm saying is buy low. So Chase Brown could also be in that mix. Alvin Kamara can be in that mix. Those are potentially some decent options in that circumstance. Let's move on to wide receiver. If you're theoretically looking for wide receiver, London obviously is the one that I've mentioned ad nauseum. I think there could be a discussion to, potentially explore. It's going to be difficult to buy low on Justin Jefferson because of the name value, but he's performed at a far lesser rate. If you guys are 3-0 in your league and you're set up at wide receiver depth, trade for CeeDee Lamb for the future. Additionally, other names you could potentially go after still. I think it may be a little bit more difficult to get A.J. Brown now in comparison to this time last week when we talked about going after him. So that could be a potential difficulty. In terms of other wide receivers that I want to buy low on, if you could potentially, just throwing it out there, if you could get Debo after this most recent week of a lackluster performance, I would. What's another wide? I'm not even going to mention BTJ. I think we'll talk about that in the future. Who else is a decent option? I think that's fine for now. After this week, after this Vikings game, I think I'd probably trade for Metcalf. That's another option. Thank you. All right, continuing on. All right, we're going to see where Himi and Jesse M's questions are in the live chat. So let's go find those, shall we? Jesse M says the following. Says trade Javonte Williams, Montgomery, and Rice for Bijan and Golden. Nope, I don't want that. I'd rather have what you have in terms of your depth. In a 14-team half PPR league, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex format, you have HN, Benson, Javonte, Montgomery, Marks, Justin Jefferson, Sutton, Igbuka, Rice. Yeah, I don't know how you were able to build a team of this caliber in a 14-team format, but I feel like, okay, theoretically, if you were to move off of these 3 players, okay, and you were to bring in Bijan, when I look at your starting lineup, HN, Javonte, and then you have Sutton, Justin Jefferson, and then you have Rice, Igbuka, or Rice plus Benson, Montgomery. I think in the long run, I would prefer to have this depth because you could quite literally play all three of them or just play Bijan. And Golden in this circumstance, again, when you are a wide receiver on the Packers, it doesn't matter if they utilize first round draft capital on you. It seems as if there is an unfortunate situation. Wow. Okay, Chad. Good luck, man. I'll tell you. In regards to the potential of what's it called? Yeah, in regards to the potential of the fantasy points that are going to be contributed to your team, I would say you're probably in a better situation just holding what you have. Thank you. All right, where was Himmy? Himmy's right there. Thank you, man. All right, Himmy, where are we at? Himmy says in a 12-team PPR, somehow I'm 3-0. Okay, very well. Says I have Kyler, Daniel Dimes, Achane, Chase Brown, Jordan Mason, BTJ, Cortland Sutton, Tedoroa McMillan, Ricky Keon, Jawan Kittle. Any recommendations? Trade, maybe. I mean, look, as of right now, if you're going to theoretically make trades, no, I don't even think you're eligible to make trades. Because, look, your most valuable pieces are like Achane and at least like Cortland Sutton, Jordan Mason at the moment. BTJ and Chase Brown have yet to even do anything, and you're 3-0. So in this circumstance, you're kind of just holding on to them and just waiting for the potential of their breakout. And then once, in fact, they do, you can either sell or you can hold on to them, which is probably what I would suggest that you do in this circumstance. Thank you. Appreciate the patience. All right, continuing on. We had a question sent in from, we took care of this one. We took care of this one. Sean K says, Bo Nix or Justin Fields rest of the season? That's a really good question. I think in time we'll get a clearer answer. I kind of want to see more of this Jets offense with Justin Fields. Again, we've only seen one actual pure game with Justin Fields under center prior to the concussion protocol game against the Bills in week 2. So once I get a little bit more of an understanding as to what this offense fully entails on a week-by-week basis, I'd be more comfortable picking one or the other. For right now, I would lean towards most likely Knicks, but I think there's a possibility and a chance that Fields could very easily overtake him under the assumption that he can stay healthy and not miss another game for the rest of the season. Juice sends in a question, says, Drew, in a full PPR 2 wide receiver 1 flex format, Pearsall, Tyreek, Debo, Kamara. Yeah, as it currently stands, I probably just, oh, there goes my YouTube, just crashed. Not enough memory. Okay, thanks. As of right now, the way that I would go about it, I'm probably just leaning in the direction to which, let me see where the other options were. Yeah, I probably end up benching Debo and playing the rest. Pearsall with no Jawan Jennings, beautiful. Tyreek Hill should be a solid play against the Jets this week. In the event in which Daniels does play, I would probably go with Debo there, but again, we're waiting for that news. Also, we're waiting for Terry McLaurin's status, so time will tell. So it's either between Debo and Kamara as the final spot there. And for right now, if it's not Daniels, I'll go with Kamara. If it is Daniels, then I will just take Debo in that circumstance. Thank you, Juice. Appreciate it. MTD sends in a question, says PPR, trade Nico for Rice and Kittle. My other wide receivers are Puka, Sutton, Keenan. Tight ends are Njoku and Fannin. I'm 1-2. Yeah, look, here's the thing. I don't see the reason why you would trade Nico Collins for Rice and Kittle, because Rice and Kittle are not going to play for you in the short term. So the unfortunate reality is if you're 1-2 and you're not going to get much, help in the short term, it's not going to set yourself up for success if you're just going to catch L's for the next 4 weeks here. That's my only concern. So as of right now, I'm thinking of the available option. Oh, let's go back to that question. Sorry about that. Let's go here. What did someone put in the live chat? What was that? Trey Benson ankle injury? Are we serious? Benson got hurt? I didn't even see that. Is that why he stepped out of the game? That's okay. We'll keep an eye on that. Interesting. Anyway, getting back to your question. I'm not making this trade if I need help now. And it looks like you need help now considering the 1-2 record. So I understand that you have Puka, Sutton, Keenan, but I'd just rather keep Nico Collins and just keep winning games here in the meanwhile. And then tight ends are Njoku and Fannin. If you could give away anybody except for Nico in this situation, I mean, as long as you could give away not Puka or Nico, if you give away Sutton, Keenan, or Sutton and it's like Sutton plus another piece or Keenan and another piece, I'd be comfortable with it. Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, it is very sketchy because Kittle theoretically could come back, but also could re-aggravate his injury. Rice comes back in week 7. Between now and then, you can catch 4 straight L's, be 1-6 in a 12-team league, completely set yourself out of playoff contention just off the rip there. So that's my concern. So I'd keep what you have. King sends in a question. Says, I'm 3-0 in a full PPR 2-flex format. I have Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Kyron, Javonte, Benson, Judkins, Charbonnet, Mixon, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Odunze, Evans. I'm 0-3. Teams shopping Saquon offer. If you were going to send an offer for Saquon Barkley, I mean, obviously they're going to want a running back in return. If they are in need of desperate running back kind of depth, you could theoretically just send Javonte and Judkins as a 2-for-1 special. Otherwise, you probably just end up taking. Otherwise, yeah, you could theoretically take a Judkins and Dunze, but do I want to make that trade? Not really. Not in a full PPR double flex format. So as of right now, if they'll take 2 running backs in order to get Saquon, sounds good. Otherwise, I'm holding. Because I think you have enough solid pieces to be able to deliver some wins here in the upcoming future. Brandon will win. Sends in a question. Says, start Scadaboo or Chuba Hubbard rest season full PPR. As of right now, I'll lean towards Scadaboo. If I had to pick rest season, who would I prefer? Scadaboo is the guy. Daniel Lundquist, thank you very much. I'll get to your question in just a moment. Rando says, drop Wando Robinson for Mooney or Io Manor full PPR. No, I would actually rather have Wando Robinson rest of the season in comparison to those two. John says, trade CD for Jamar. Yeah, if you can get Jamar Chase for CD Lamb, that's a beautiful trade. Congrats. Joshua Wilkins says, I'm 1-2 panic or stay patient. Stay patient, guys. Again, there are so many leagues that I have won in my lifetime in which I started 1-3, 1-4, and I still won the league. Because truly, okay, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season is still the getting used to what the heck is going on process. So as of this moment, I think to myself, okay, if you can at least have some semblance of a solid roster and get into the playoffs, that's all that matters, right? That's really all it is. You don't win the league by having the best regular season record. That's not how that works. So as long as you can get to the dance, you're fine. And at a 1-2 record, I'm not panicking. At an 0-3 record, I'm not even panicking. Again, there are some 0-3 teams that are dealing with a lot of injuries, and at that point, yes, you're in trouble. But others, I'm not even stressing it. Half PPR, I have Mahomes, Kyron, Genty, Brown, Mason, Ladd, Sutton, T, Rice. Yeah, I wouldn't worry. Brother, you've got a really solid team. I mean, like, as of right now, if you really wanted to make a move, you could ship off Rashee Rice to get back a wide receiver. But I'm not going to, I mean, at this point, I think you're at a really solid position to where you don't need to. Thank you. Adam Amar says, Dobbins rest of season outlook. Yeah, you like Jalen Coker? Okay, interesting. I was about to say, I was like, what are you talking about here, brother? I mean, look, Dobbins' entire outlook rest of the season is purely dependent on his health. If he stays healthy, then he has no jeopardy of losing his job to Harvey. In the event in which he gets injured and leaves for a period of time and Harvey outright wins the job in his absence, then we'd have issues. So it's just purely a matter of, can he stay healthy for long enough? If he stays healthy for 12 straight weeks, he will have done his job. If he gets injured and disappears for the fantasy playoffs like he did last season, so be it. We're not worried about that. Sergio Rios says, did a series of trades in the last couple days, try to improve my 1-2 team. I lost Genty, Kyron, Hawkinson, Ladd, and I gained Jamar, Garrett Wilson, Brock Bowers, and Olave. W or L. In a full PPR, I would say this is probably a W in the assumption that you had enough running back depth to recoup the value that was lost in the form of Genty and Kyron Williams. In the event in which you do not have enough depth to kind of fill in for that, then I'd be a little bit concerned. But in terms of value that you gained in comparison to what you gave up, I think Jamar, I would say I would say that there's very comparable value here. It's just purely a matter of, outside of the vacuum of this question, do you have running back depth? If the answer is yes, then it's a W. I have no issue with it. H. Jockish says, Genty or Pearsall PPR? As of right now, I go with Pearsall this week, assuming, again, we have Brock Purdy, who actually did participate in practice earlier today, and Jawan Jennings, who missed another practice. Chase Brown or Swift in a PPR? I'd rather play Chase Brown. Thank you. Okay, before I get to your question, Beaver, let me see if I can find Daniel Ludquist's question. Daniel, where are you at, man? All right, Daniel says, my betting site allows a win, a team 8+ at halftime. Is there any head-to-head? Here's the thing, Daniel. I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't play in any kind of leagues like that. I mean, where I live, it's not legal, so I don't even look at that, and I have never even participated in something like that, so I couldn't even make a suggestion. Um, Allows a win if a team is up 8 points at halftime. Is there any teams that going into halftime this week I think are going to be up 8 potential points, which I would potentially venture to say I think there's a very good likelihood that that would take place with the Buffalo Bills being up 8 at halftime. I think there's a possibility that that could also occur with the Vikings this week. I think that could also occur with the Chargers, the Lions, the Packers. These are all possibilities. The Broncos. There could be a lot of blowouts this week, but am I confident enough to like make a suggestion? No, because honestly, I haven't looked at it long enough to where I feel comfortable making that suggestion. Daniel, thank you. Hey, Andrew, this comes from the Beaver, who says, hey, Andrew, I just traded DJ Moore and T. Higgins for Myers. I mean, look, as of right now in a full PPR, I could understand as to why you made the trade. I probably would have held out on DJ Moore and Higgins and hoped for a little bit more upside potentially, but teach their own. Says, and offer away Pollard and Mooney for Genty. If you can get Genty for Pollard and Mooney, it's a steal. And anything you just did with the DJ Moore Higgins trade, I will forget about. Thank you, Beaver. Having Slim says, start one and a wide receiver two. Start one at wide receiver two. Ridley, Wicks, Coleman, Diggs. As of right now, the issue becomes I don't want to play Ridley against Lassiter and Stingley. I don't really want to play Wicks because, again, who knows who's actually going to catch the ball in Green Bay. Maybe everybody scores this week or nobody. Coleman is a little bit of a sketch bag because primarily they play against New Orleans, and anytime the Bills are going to be implicated for a blowout victory, you never know who's going to score. And then Diggs is taking on Carolina, whose secondary has played very well. So really, I don't like any of these options. If I was going to play one, I'd probably go Coleman and hope for touchdown upside. Lou sends it a question, says, what's up, bro? I got LJ as in Lamar Jackson, Bucky, Jacobs, Io Manor, Pickens, Ferguson, and Warren. Evans is on my bench since he's hurt. How do I look? Io Manor is a problem. You got to get him off the lineup, man. I don't trust him playing this week against that Houston Texans secondary. I don't trust it at all. Everything outside of that, we're good. But this is my biggest problem. We got to find something else. And obviously, you have to substitute for Evans, but I would go as far as playing. I mean, you already have two Cowboys starting this week. So I was going to say Turpin, but if somebody of the magnitude of, I'm just going to throw out a bunch of wide receiver names. You let me know if they're available in your league. If they are, go for them. Wan'Dale Robinson, Trey Tucker, Josh Downs, Jerry Jeudy, Keon Coleman, Matthew Golden, Diggs, Parker Washington, Calvin Austin, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Kavonte Turpin, Cooper Kupp. Well, he already played. Kayshawn Boutte, Rashid Shaheed, Luther Burden, Sterling Shepard. I'd rather play. Rashad Bateman. I'd rather play. Malik Washington. I'd rather play. There are many of players I'd rather play, except for Alick this week. Please. Blaze sends it a question. Says trade Mike Evans for DK. Yeah, I would take that deal. Again, it's very sketchy because Mike Evans should be more valuable after the return. But if DK Metcalf, or more like Aaron Rodgers, wakes up and starts targeting him more, should be a better option. So I don't mind making that circumstantial kind of because of the injury trade. No Love Matt says half PPR, one flex. Should I play Montgomery, BTJ, Ladd, Devontae Smith, Travion Henderson, Godwin, or Tyler Warren? I'm already playing Bowers. Okay. Of the available that you mentioned in terms of what you can theoretically roll with this week, if all of those options are available for your flex, I probably end up rolling. Let me see how I have this in a half PPR. Where's Montgomery? I want to play Ladd McConkey there. I think it might end up just being a David Montgomery play in this circumstance and hope he falls into the end zone. Now, in the event in which you're saying, Andrew, start like two running backs, two wide receivers, and one flex, you're already starting Bowers, then I probably just go with Montgomery as my RB1, Travion as my RB2, Ladd McConkey as my wide receiver 1, BTJ as my wide receiver 2, and Tyler Warren in my flex. Thank you. All right, we continue on with a question that comes in from Pixel Nomad, who says, in a 14-team league, I'm 0-3. I have Allen, as in Josh. I have Warren Dobbins, Jalen Warren Dobbins, Harvey, Tootin, Hunt, CD, AJB, Worthy, Addison, Fannin. Should I trade CD Lamb for Sutton, Quentin Johnston, and Swift? Yes, I would. Even if that's Quinshon Judkins, I make that trade. At 0-3 in a 14-team league, getting that value in return, I think it's worth it. Thank you. Sergio says, with last question, I got Hampton, Scat, and Judkins. Let me go ahead and let me just cross-reference Sergio. What exactly? Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, you're good then. So you do have running back depth. Beautiful. Love to see it. Fantastic. Congratulations, Sergio. That's a great trade. Raul sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, start Chase Brown or Montgomery? In a full PPR, between the two of them, I currently have Chase Brown ranked higher, technically. Anonymous sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, drop Fannin or Burden for Dobbs? Juwan is my tight end. As of right now, I think Juwan Johnson probably plays for you every day for the rest of the season. It depends on when the Saints have a bye week. Let me just check for reference. The Saints have a week 11 bye week. If you wanted to drop Fannin, you could. And then just hold on the Burden and see if we can put together some, pretty solid weeks here in the upcoming future. Rowett says, my Jamar for Adams. Team is in the chat. PPR got Evans too. Yeah, look, I'd rather have Jamar Chase than Devontae Adams the rest of the season. So if that answers your question, that's the way I go about it. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. Is there anybody else that I was missing earlier? No. Okay, cool. Then we had Josh Gonzalez. Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate it, my man. Says, I'm currently 1-2 in a full PPR 2 flex format. I have Gibbs and a 0 legit other running backs, all injured. Offered Hampton and Mason and Devontae / Quentin Johnston for Gibbs. In the event... So in a double flex format, you'll not only get depth, but you'll also get running backs that you can actually... If you're able to get Hampton, Mason, and QJ, I'm okay with that. That's fine by me. I think it kind of saves you out. Because if you legitimately have no other running backs, and yeah, it's going to be hard to trade Ladd. You just had JSN play, and moving Odunze is probably not the best option because the two running backs that you would get in exchange for that is probably going to be lesser than this. I'm okay with it. Flame838 says, hey, Andrew, in a 12-team 3-0, trade Pickens and Tootin away for BTJ. Rest of team is Caleb, Bijan, Bucky, Sutton, Bauer, Swift, Golden, and Godwin. Yeah, I'll take that trade. That's fine by me. I'm willing to buy low on BTJ in that circumstance. Start Addison or T. Higgins. I currently have T. Higgins ranked higher, but I don't mind the Addison play. The only reason that I would be a little bit skeptical on the Addison approach is because, again, it's his first week back, and he has a backup quarterback in which he has 0 rapport built up with. Also, I feel like Addison's going to get a touchdown with a better matchup. T. horrible matchup. To be honest, even with the quote-unquote horrible matchup, if he lines up against Riley Moss, he will dominate. It's just a matter of how many times is he going to be able to do so, and how many times is the ball actually going to come in his direction before, of course, there's a defender in the face of Jake Browning. Carlos Bruno sent in a question. Carlos, thank you very much. Let me see if I can find your question in the live chat. Says, I'm currently in a PPR 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 2 flex format. I have Jamar Chase, Igbuka, Myers, Jonathan Taylor, Kyron, and Genty. Wow, that's a fantastic team. Again, I understand that Kyron's been a little bit sketchy. Genty has been a non-factor thus far, and Jamar Chase has a backup quarterback. But ultimately, I really like this team. Do I trade for a tight end? I have Fannin and Likely. If you were going to trade for a tight end, you could. Again, maybe if there's a team in your league that has Kittle and maybe they have a lesser running back, maybe you give away a Kyron for a Kittle plus a Breece Hall. I'd be comfortable making that kind of a move. I know that's probably asking for a lot, though. They probably wouldn't even take that, but I would want something of that caliber, preferably. Otherwise, I hold. And I probably just try to play tight ends on a weekly basis in terms of matchups and just stream players every week. Thank you. Rockout sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says, ugly 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, Ridley, Wicks, Tolbert, Burden. I don't want to play any of them. I'm going to be honest. I don't like any of it. If I had to suggest, it's Ridley and Wicks. If I had to. Rise and Win says, trade questions in the chat. All right, Rise. Thank you. Appreciate it. Rise says trade Nix and Kyron for Jacobs and Devontae Adams. I have Geno at quarterback. Could add in London for Allen, for Keenan. No, I'd rather have Keenan. I'm sorry, I'd rather have London. So if theoretically you would be giving Nix, Kyron, and Keenan for Devontae Adams, Jacobs, and London, yes, I will take the Devontae Adams, Jacobs, and London side. If that is not the case and you actually currently have London, then keep him and just go for the Jacobs and Devontae trade. Thank you. Dexter says play 3 Sutton, Jacoby, Ladd, and London. London has to play. Jacoby has to play. Yeah, Ladd McConkey sits on my bench this week in comparison to the alternative options you have that are better. Let's hear. Hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, who should I flex? Io Manor, Travion Henderson, or Juwan Johnson? As of right now, I'd go towards playing Travion Henderson there. Walker or Scatterboo rest of season. I could legitimately make the argument for Scatterboo there, especially if the receiving workload is going to stay consistent with Jackson Dart. I wouldn't mind it. But Jackson Dart is a mobile quarterback, so that's my only concern. Could lead to a little bit less check down, potential options there because of his mobility. Would you trade Mo for Marvin Harrison? Who the heck is Mo? Like Demo as in David Montgomery? Depends on what kind of running back depth you have. Because if you're in need of wide receiver, I'd say sure, but I don't love it. Because again, Marvin Harrison's very touchdown dependent still. All right, Cunningham sends in a question. Says I got offered a Dunze for Benson and Keenan Allen before the game. Do I take it? I mean, somebody in the chat was saying that Benson got an ankle injury. So unless we have some clarification on that, I don't know. In the event in which he is injured, let's take the trade and let's get out of there. But as of right now, I would say it depends on how desperate you need running back depth. I feel like if I'm going to give away a Dunze, I would rather go and try to buy low on the players I mentioned before. Genty, Breece Hall, Henderson. Those are Chase Browns of the world. That's what I'd rather go after. Glenwood King sends in a question. Thank you very much, Glenwood. I appreciate it. Says, happy birthday, Andrew. Thank you. Says, I'm in a 10-team, 2-flex, full PPR format. Should I play at my running back in 2 flex spots between Ladd, Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Hunter Henry, Alec Io Manor? Of those available, obviously we're going to play Tony Pollard at RB1, Chuba Hubbard as one of your flex alongside of Ladd McConkey, Hunter and Io Manor considering our bench this week. Now, I could make the argument for playing Hunter Henry over Ladd McConkey. Let me see how I have them currently ranked. I could make the argument. I won't, though. As for your next question, or more like clarification, says I have Jamar Chase, JSN as wide receiver, Jake Ferguson at tight end, Taylor at my running back. Yeah. Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Ladd McConkey. Thank you. All right, y'all. How long have we been here for? Just want to go ahead and clarify that. We've been here for about 50 minutes. I'll be probably here for another 10 minutes or so until the hour mark. And then I'll be back tomorrow posting, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe strength. No. We'll see what I end up posting tomorrow. I'm thinking about it because Hidden Gems has definitely been a very hit or miss, more like a lot of misses. But thanks to Mr. Ramondre Stevenson wanting the fumble on the 1 yard line. Thank you very much. But in regards to what we do tomorrow, I'll put a video up tomorrow, and then outside of that, additionally, Saturday afternoon live stream at 1 p.m. PST. Do not forget that Sunday morning, guys. If you guys have any Vikings and or you have any Pittsburgh Steelers, they are playing on Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. PST, 9:30 a.m. EST. It is a game that is taking place in Dublin. I will be live streaming here on the channel starting at 6 a.m. PST on Sunday morning. Thank you. 4-hour live stream. Josh says questions in the chat. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it, my man. All right, let's see where Josh's question ended up going, though. Where is your question, Josh? Josh, you're going to have to retype your question, and it's on the live chat. Thanks, man. Okay, 10-man, 1 flex, full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 3-0 PPR league. Okay, perfect. Says I have Bo, Cook, Hall, Nico, Sutton, Ferguson, Debo, T, Benson, Pitts, Hunter Henry, Purdy, Seattle defense. Should I look to trade up at any position? Yes, I would try to if I was in your position, preferably speaking. I like your tight ends. I like your running backs. I would try to legitimately still try to go after an upgraded running back. If in the event we can get Genty, Travion Henderson, Breece Hall, Actually, you already have Brees Hall. If we can try to get Genty or Travion Henderson and not try to give up too much, that'd be great. I'd also be willing to go after Drake London and hand off a Deebo Samuel in order to accomplish that. If that's possible, those are the guys that I like to go after preferably. Thank you. All right, Josh says in a 10-man full PPR, how's my team / need help for the flex spot? So for my starting lineup is Herbert, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Kraft, Loop, Broncos. Who do I put as my 2 wide receivers and 1 flex? Adams, Zay, Flowers, Myers, and Scadaboo. Okay. In a PPR, Devontae Adams may make the decision for you as he has not practiced each of the last 2 days with a hamstring injury. Of course, if he is out, he does the decision-making for you, and Flowers, Myers, and Scadaboo play. In the event in which we do have a situation where in a full PPR, if Adams does end up playing, I probably end up going Adams, Zay Flowers, and Scadaboo. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. As for how's the team looking, pretty solid across the board. You have Bijan and Jonathan Taylor, bro. I don't think you have anything to worry about. You're good. Ray Barrera sends in a question. Thanks, Ray. Says, Andrew, you're the GOAT. In a 12-team full PPR league, I got offered Henderson for Sutton. Interesting. I think Sutton is a little expensive for Henderson after what he has already produced. It's not an equal trade based on what they've provided thus far. My wide receivers are T-Mac, Pearsall, and DJ Moore. My running backs are CMC, Chase Brown, JCM, Charbonnet, and Brian Robinson Jr. Like, I'd feel more comfortable giving them like, hey, you know what? Henderson's done nothing thus far this season. Here's DJ Moore and JCM. 2 for 1. Now give me Hendo. I'm not going to give away Sutton for that, especially considering I would like to play Sutton every week for the remainder of the season for your roster. So I would prefer to just keep as is. Thank you. Matt says, give CeeDee Lamb for McBride and Rice. PPR. Look, here's the thing. Rice comes back when CeeDee Lamb comes back. So really, you're just getting a McBride in the meanwhile. And Rice would have to put up some incredible numbers once he returns in order for this to be an equal trade. In the event in which you believe that Rice can put up anywhere between 16 to 20 points per game on average once he returns, then it's a great deal. Thank you. King says, Hurts and Javonte for Jaden, Genty, Addison. Yes, I will take the Jaden, Genty, Addison side of this trade. In a bubble, I think it's great. Yo, Andrew, who can I reasonably get for Dobbins or Pollard? 1 for 1 at wide receiver. Reasonably speaking, at wide receiver, 1 for 1. Javonte for Drake London. Dobbins for Drake London. Either of them for reasonably AJ Brown. Either of them for Zay Flowers reasonably. But I think Zay Flowers has to be in a full PPR. Reasonably for BTJ. I guess that could work. Yeah, those are, I would say, reasonable moves. Cortland Sutton could also work. And that's just I'm being conservative and like modest with it. I'm not trying to sell them off for too much. I think they've done enough though to where they justify those values. Wave God sends in a question. Says Fields, JJ, Nico, Garrett, Cortland Sutton, Jawan, Cook, Pollard, Benson, Chubb, Mixon. Should I trade Fields? Should I trade Fields, JJ for Josh Allen or Malik and Etienne for JJ? I'm so confused as to this question. Okay, so your question is, should I trade Fields, JJ for Josh Allen or Malik and Etienne for JJ? Okay. I would say no to... Wait, okay. So in the event in which you could get Malik Neighbors and Travis Etienne for Justin Jefferson, I will take the Malik Neighbors and Etienne side of this trade. I do not want Josh Allen, though, in comparison to this alternative. Thank you. Andrew Sola sends in a question, says, I'm in a 10-team full PPR 1 and 2 format. Okay, 1 and 2 in my current win-loss record. I have Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Jacob, Charbonnet, JCM, Pacheco, Spears, CD, BTG, Marvin, Garrett Wilson, Moore, Mooney, Warren. What does the next move be? I mean, looking at the roster as a whole, RB1 and 2 is solid. Josh Allen is great. The issue is wide receiver, clearing away. But you do have Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison and BTJ in the meanwhile. I think at a 1-2 record, if you wanted to, you could position yourself to move CeeDee Lamb to try to go get a top tier wide receiver. I would try to, if you could, find a team that's 3-0 in your league. If they have somebody of the caliber of Nico, JSN, Amon-Ra, Neighbors, Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Garrett Wilson, you would automatically just trade 1-for-1 Drake London. I mean, I'd be willing to take all of those. In the event in which you cannot find a team of that caliber, but somebody wants to give you like a Roma Dunze and a lesser piece also with him for a CD, then I'd also go and explore that path. But I don't think you need to. I think at a current position, if BTJ shows up, you should be fine to wait for CeeDee Lamb to return. But you could explore that path if, in fact, it's available. All right. Last couple questions here, then we're going to close it out. I'm going to say Rogo is probably the last question. So these are the final two. NT Basin says, trade Bowers/McBride for Sutton/Debo for CD. 8-man PPR. If in the event in which I was playing in a PPR format, I would be comfortable trading Bowers and Debo in order to get CeeDee Lamb. That works for me in an 8-man league. Thank you. Rogo sends in a question. Says, sup, bro? So done already? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, listen, there's a lot of people that are going to be incredibly, I would say, discouraged by how the season has gone thus far. But again, this, fantasy football is not for the faint of heart. Fantasy football is not for people who like to quit early. We gotta have a positive mentality. If you've got a negative mentality, it's not going to go well. Jaden Daniels, we have Adunze, we have Myers, we have Gibbs, we have Trey Benson, Fannin, Kirk, McManus, Denver, McConkey. Okay, so first and foremost, McConkey should be playing over Christian Kirk in your flex. Outside of that, I'm not making any other trades, any other swaps. As to what you're looking at in terms of potential trades, I mean, ultimately, if you can try to go buy low on Breece Hall, Genty, Chase Brown, Travion Henderson, that's what you should go. You should take Swift, attach that to somebody on your team, and go make a move. In the event in which you can give Swift and Kittle and go get Genty, I do it legitimately. In the event in which you can go and give Swift and another potential piece, like a McConkey, and get a Genty, that works too. I'm just legitimately in the services, or I'm looking for running back 2 services that are better than Benson going forward. Damian Solis sends in the final question. Says 2 flex, full PPR. Only running backs are Kyron and Woody. Okay, we're in trouble. Wide receivers are St. Brown, Nico, Tedero, McMillan, Zay Flowers, Rice. I got offered Hubbard for Collins. Nope, not interested. Swift for Pickens. Nope, not interested. London/Montgomery for Tedero and Pickens. Yes, that's it. Boom, jackpot. Beautiful. Take London and Montgomery, run to the hills. Congratulations, Damian. That is a fantastic trade. All right, guys. That's going to cover it for me today. I appreciate y'all coming through. Again, a couple reminders. If you guys want your questions answered, and of course you want potentially Thursday and Sunday morning rankings every week for the remainder of the season, you can always go ahead and get those questions answered. Find Discord community server access and all that kind of jazz via the Patreon. Of course, you get those rankings every single week posted on the Patreon main board. But of course, if you have any trade questions, waiver wire questions, roster starter sit questions, be sure to shoot them over for those of you who are already members or potentially to be members. Appreciate all the support. The final thing I wanted to mention, of course, is if you guys want to go ahead and sign up via Betr in order to get the Sunday morning rankings sent from my email directly to yours, you guys know how to do it. It's by using code Andrew, making that first time deposit minimum of $10 and making that first time play minimum of $1. In terms of a real cash play, picking more or less on 2-player statistics. The suggested plays I made today, JSN absolutely burnt me. Mainly because the first reception he made was technically considered a rushing attempt, even though it was a pass. It happens. Either way, if you guys are interested, go ahead, check out all that information down below. There's a link down in the description. And that basically covers it for me today. I appreciate y'all. Let me go ahead. Let me restore this chat. We're good to go. And we're going to go ahead and cue the music. I'll be back tomorrow with some potential hidden gems. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.